Okay, go ahead, Guido, we're live.
Okay, so welcome everyone. It's a pleasure welcoming you on the IBM Z Day on the modernization track. My name is Guido Falkenberg. I'm the Senior Vice President of Software AG's Application Modernization Products. And with me today is Betsy. So Betsy will introduce herself. She's from Delaware Courts, and the both of us, we will take you on a journey on how to modernize your IBM Z applications and data with API integration and beyond. So let me get started. We as Software AG, we believe we are living in a really truly connected world. As your IBM Z system running core transactions, providing data to your users, to your employees, to agencies, to your business partners, I think these connection points will increase more and more, as we now have connection points in the cloud, on new applications, on new devices, and the way on how you interact and work with your applications. And the big question is, how can this valuable IBM Z core application can participate in such a connected world, so that you can fully leverage the content that is in there. I would always say it's your DNA of your enterprise that is sitting on an IBM Z environment. But before I'm talking about how to connect the IBM Z with all these new things, let me share a few things, what I'm hearing from customers around the world, why connectivity with IBM Z needs to be reconsidered. Why now? And the why now is definitely highly influenced by the way on how companies transform their IT towards the cloud. And this is not a kind of a black and white thing, be in the cloud or out the cloud. This is a true journey, a journey that can take years, that can take a decade or even more. And as you are starting the journey, you are opening up a hybrid environment where your valuable data processing that is done on IBM Z needs now to connect to this world of cloud. Might be a private cloud, might be a public cloud. What we also see, even if your core business logic is residing on an IBM Z platform, we see a strong need for delivering new business capabilities to your end users and to your business. And this sometimes can be done on the mainframe, but I would say here customers are taking a kind of a best of breed approach. They take a look, is there any kind of package I can acquire? Is there a new way of doing low code development on the cloud? So, but definitely also the new capabilities needs to be linked back to the core data processing residing on an IBM platform. And we see more and more customers moving into an API channel or into an API architecture environment, where you serve your business partners, your agencies, your citizens, your employees in an individual way, but as a backbone in a unified way. That means APIs are driving, are enabling these channels. And we definitely see a very strong disruptive force around data analytics. I'm in the big data space for more than 10 years, and I tell you what is happening now. I've never seen that before, that the traditional data warehouses are being questioned, data lakes coming in, cloud data analytic architectures pop in, new vendors are coming up like Snowflake. And this disruptive forces raises the question how your IBM Z core application can participate in such a changing and high dynamic environment. In order to be flexible, we believe there is not only one way how to connect the mainframe. Yeah? Your applications, your data is unique. I would say even every IBM Z environment is unique to your enterprise. Yeah? The way on how you process the data, the way how you store the data. Sometimes you're running things on DB2, on VSUM, AWS, INS. Sometimes you're running CICS. Others are running the applications in batch. Yeah? Some of you might have already connected your front-end applications using middleware. Some of you are still using the so-called green screen terminal emulations, accessing the application. We have Suffragee. We believe IBM Z integration needs to be a holistic approach. That means you need to be enabled to pick and choose the best integration approach to get your data, to get your business logic into these new digital solutions. That could be the cloud, that could be an API management platform, that could be data analytics. And just taking out the topic of data analytics, I can tell you these new things require the way on how they expect data to be delivered to them. That's a new way. It's not the old way of doing data extraction and FTP it and transfer it over. These things are new. And these things, digital solution, they drive the innovation of your business, of your enterprise, of your government agency. And we believe it's not a thing that you have to do everything at once. And as Betsy will tell you later on, that's a modernization journey, an integration journey. And it needs to be driven by the business. You need to have executive sponsorship. Otherwise, it becomes difficult to get things done, to convince them. And it should be an incremental approach, not a do nothing or do everything approach. You need to deliver business benefit incrementally so that people who might not believe in the IBM Z as a future platform, they are astonished. They are positively surprised. What you can do with it, how fast you can do things with it. And once you have set up a new application, no one is asking you, is there a relational database behind? Is there a Java application behind? Or is there a super fast processing IBM Z platform behind? So there are different ingredients, but we believe the comprehensiveness of an integration stack is the key enabler to ensure that the IBM Z platform with the core application and data residing on it is a future-ready element in your IT strategy. And even if I will not go into details on these hybrid integration use cases, once you have these capabilities, you can pick and choose different use cases on how you position the IBM Z platform. The IBM Z platform could be just an apprentices and a data server for your people that would like to run their reports, entering SQL queries. It can be part of a data virtualization view. That means people running business intelligence analytics on their front ends or even in the cloud. And they want to have a unified access across all different applications, across all different mainframe databases you have in place. And we see definitely the vice versa scenarios. That means the IBM Z platform can not only act as a server, but also act as a client, because the data you want to access sits somewhere in the cloud or sits in an Oracle database on Linux or something else. And data movement, so the first three scenarios are pretty much, I would say, you retain the data where it is, but you make it accessible. The use case is 4 to 6. This is physical movement of data. And that can also be different things. You can move transactional data in a data warehouse or in a data lake sitting in the cloud. We also see customers that would like to move data sitting in the cloud back on the mainframe, because you might have different systems of records, not only residing on the mainframe, but also residing maybe on a software as a service application. And all the scenarios of synchronization, of synchronizing databases and in between. We definitely see in our customer base a very strong move towards APIs. The whole journey started when we had service-oriented architectures, when we had web services sitting on SOAP, WSDL, XML protocols. What we definitely see is REST APIs sitting on JSON, HTTP, supporting Swagger and other things. This is the way to go, because that enables you not only to integrate internal systems of various kind, but also to provide connectivity to your business partners, or even, I would say, to the public. And here we are providing different ways on how a COBOL application can be API enabled, or how you can API enable a 30 to 70 user screen flow because you want to run some robotic process automation, or you want to hook it into an API management platform, or the mainframe itself can become an API consumer. So that means your organization, your partners, your ecosystems are providing valuable REST services that you want to, I would say, tightly integrate into the business logic sitting on the mainframe. By saying that, I would like now to turn over to Betsy, because Betsy is now, I would say, she is the storyteller of how these things I've told you from a technical point of view are being applied in a real world scenario. So handing over to you, Betsy, and let's get started.
Well, thank you, Guido. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. So just a little bit about me quickly. I am employed by the Judicial Information Center for the state of Delaware for over 27 years. I have lived through and experienced many changes in information processing during this time. Our little department serves all the courts you see there at the top of this screen, from Supreme to JP Court. And we have a very small staff. There's only 3 mainframe programmers and 2 .NET programmers that support all of these courts and their data processing needs. I would like to speak to some of the challenges that we have and will face as the pace of technology goes faster and the need for data continues to increase. Because of the number of corporations, some of the little challenges that you see here is because of the number of corporations that are incorporating in Delaware. This has brought an influx of lawyers registering in the state of Delaware, and that'll be a topic I talk about in a few minutes. The task of registering lawyers was done manually. They filled out a piece of paper, they sent it to Supreme Court, and 2 little clerks would have to sit down there and spend hours getting their fingers sore trying to data enter this stuff into the mainframe. And the other issues we have, we needed to start moving people through the courthouse faster. We needed people to know where to be faster. We needed, as these corporations are coming in and more cases are being heard, we have more and more people converging on the courthouse. We need to move them faster. We can't be looking this up on a piece of paper. We can't be stopping and talking to every single person. We needed a way to let these people know where they needed to be as they entered the courthouse. And we needed to update case and client information as quickly as possible and present it as quickly as possible so that people didn't have to click through many green screens. All these things were coming at us so quickly and so rapidly, and we're such a small staff. We needed a way to convince the stakeholders that the stability of the mainframe and the connectivity of the IBM Z platform was so very valuable and so very important that we couldn't go to servers. One server goes down, the courthouse screens go down, this goes down, that goes down. Everything goes down where everything was on that mainframe, everything was on that IBM Z platform, and we needed a way to release it. Now, I want to make a little note here. I am speaking solely as a developer. My talking points will address how we are meeting our challenges today. I am not speaking for my agency or their thought process for the future. I am simply telling you, as a developer on mainframe, knowing what power we have, how I'm and my staff are addressing these and releasing this data. Guido, could you go to the next slide, please? So when I first came to the state, when I was a young one, young whippersnapper, we were on a borough's COBOL platform, and they said to us, we're going to go to an IBM platform and we're going to use these software AG products, go to ADabase and Natural. Well, you know, that's the first thing you do. You get scared, right? Something new, you get scared. I'm young. I know this other stuff, and you're going to tell me what? So they sent me off for training and a couple other programmers. And as a young person in those days, I took to these products like a duck to water. And vigorously, when we got back to the office, started converting these programs in natural, and it went quickly, and we had fun, and it was a wonderful, wonderful process. We loved it, and we loved everything about it. But then, you know, you got to fast forward 10, 15 years, and you got the graphical interfaces coming in the courtroom. People are saying, we don't want these green screens. We have to go through too many green screens. This green screen looks old. Therefore, our processes are old. Therefore, we're outdated. When in fact, we know, as the programmers behind the scenes, there's nothing outdated about it, and there isn't anything we can't do except give them that GUI interface. So comes along ASOP that you see there, the automated sentence order processing in the 1990s. This was developed on VB5 on old servers and using blob data. And this data was passed to every program in the background. Every program had to be parsed out. Every piece of data had to be readjusted for every call to every sub-program. And eventually it outgrew itself. First of all, the server got outdated. VB5 became deprecated. And the size of the blob became too large. We couldn't add any more data processes or data elements without changing every process in the whole project. And there were over 100 programs in this project. So whatever are we gonna do? Sitting there looking at each other, how do we get through this? Guido, could you go to the next slide, please? So the task was daunting, and you can see what we needed to do here. To say the least, we had all the issues you see on this screen before transformation, and we needed to get to the screen after transformation, and we needed to do it quickly. But how are we going to do that? How in the world are we going to do that? We are just sitting here locked in, like a landlocked little island. So this made us older developers look outdated. It made the platform look outdated, and so on and so on. Of course, there were thoughts of rip and replace. Rip and replace. It keeps creeping in. Everybody wants to rip and replace. Let's go to something prettier, something faster, something new, something in the cloud. And they promise, you know, someone always comes along and promises you these things that, you know, our product, we can convert your data, no problem. We will keep all the integrity of your data, no problem. We will do this quickly. But at what cost are we talking? And at what time expense? And what does your staff have to do? And that process does not happen overnight, as well. Guido pointed out, this is, you know, 5 to 10 year processes, if it even happens at that time. So here we were thinking, we know there's a better way. We know there's a better way. Guido, could you go to the next slide, please? So again, in comes, and I'm going to talk about these little processes here. In comes Software AG and shows us web methods. And like a duck to water, we took to web methods. We were like, wait a minute, we can release every single one of our applications as a web service. We can release this data. We can process this data on the IBM Z platform and yet present it to them like they're on a new platform. And so the challenge there was to get management and the stakeholders in. So proof of concept. First thing we did, asked Software AG to come in and help us with a proof of concept. And we produced graphical interfaces using mainframe, using IBM Z platform processing, all our legacy heavy lifting programs in the background. We produced little applications in a week. It went so quickly. We could do almost anything they asked us. Any challenge they gave us, we were able to do that. Now, I'm not saying we're going to be able to achieve every challenge that easily, but when they challenged us, that's what we did. We brought these things in. We showed them how we could take a natural program, create a web service out of it, and have it consumed by the .NET process back to the mainframe. They could go to the green screens and see that the data had been changed, updated in an instant. So every challenge being met with these products shed more light on how quickly we can convert, how quickly things could happen. So one of these things that happens in the courts, and I think any of you who work in the courts that are listening today, or even other, you know, platforms, you understand that people tend to go and get these little applications. Like, we just need a little something over here to get us through this little something over there. So we have off-the-shelf little products, or even custom written little off-the-shelf semi products that'll do veterans court or child advocacy courts or drug courts and things like that, but they still need mainframe data. So we are able to process that, send them mainframe data without dropping files anymore, and picking them up, running jobs, batch jobs at night. So one of our first challenges that went into production was IVR. They went off the shelf, got themselves this interactive voice response system, had it all set up and ready to go. You call in, let the client call in, they'll find out what their schedule is in court, they're going to find out what payments they are due, and all this stuff, and sitting there looking all pretty and didn't realize, where are we getting the data? I couldn't even believe this. They walk in and they say to me, how are we going to get the data to this IVR system? And I said, oh, well, that's pretty simple. All I have to do is write a small subprogram, present it as a web service in web methods, and let that IVR system consume it. And we had that done in a week. Tested, done, and implemented in production within a week. It was just that simple. And that just gave them, all the evidence that they needed to see that the mainframe's not locked down. And it's fast. It's fast. You never get return time like this on, when you're in a multitude of servers. I'm not saying that some of you out there don't have really fast servers. I'm just saying when you're processing large amounts of data like we do, it just shows the power of IBM Z platform and the new products that we have. So the next one to come along, we had an issue, as I mentioned earlier, about all the lawyers coming into the state and registering in the state, and they're handing in their papers, and these clerks are typing all their information in. Well, that leads to, you can have accidents in entry and problems with all that kind of stuff. And so DOE took over our, I think we should be on the next slide, Guido, actually. Nope, we went too far. Oh, I'm sorry, go back. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen. Sorry, I'm just a normal person doing normal stupid things. So DOE takes over. That's a company here that does legal entities, and they took over the management of our judge and lawyer registration information. So they are now the keepers of that data. When the lawyer was admitted to the bar, what agency they're with, what firms they're with, their emails, all their personal information. All of that is now being maintained by an outside agency. But that information is extremely important to the courts. So when we have sentencing going on, we need to know judges. We need to know the active judges. We need to be able to give them a drop down of the active judges. And we have these in database files on the IBM Z platform. But we are no longer now the custodian of that data, but it must be up to date. So this is where web methods really shined. We created a flow service which connected, and we have a civil database which also needs all of that, and that's called Context. That's a different off-the-shelf system where all our civil cases are held. And they also need this information. So we created a flow service with an ODBC adapter that connected to the Oracle database behind Context. And I wrote a subprogram that connected not only to my CICS region where my judge and lawyer database resided, but also to the CJIS, which is the criminal justice system. They also need their database updated. I created one small program because our CICS regions are connected in the background on the IBM Z platform. Consume that data and update it to databases, and it happens instantaneously. And that, they don't want to say their minds were blown, but seriously, they were pretty impressed with the fact that we can do these things so seamlessly, so quickly, and convert them almost at the drop of a hat. As long as you know your data. As long as you know your data. Can we go to the next slide? So we had two systems. So now we have a little bit of practice with web methods. We have a little bit of fun with it. We got the IVR system going. We did the DOE system connectivity. Now comes the big things, the big heavy lifters. So ASOP was on written in VB5, had to be converted to .NET, had to come off that server, go to a 2017. We couldn't use the blob parser data stuff anymore because it was just, it had outgrown its ability to be enhanced. So I said, hey, why don't we just take every single sub-program that's in this project, copy it, leave the originals alone, let them keep running, everybody keep playing with the old ASOP while we create the new, take the exact program, strip out the blob, strip out the parser, create an input-output data parameter area, make them dynamic. We don't have to have limits on what we're passing back and forth. And take each program and convert it to a web service and allow it to be consumed by the brand new .NET front end. This way, every single program is now completely independent. If you need to tweak this program, or if you need an extra data element in this program, you don't affect the entire project. You just do that one simple program. If you're adding or removing data elements, parameter data elements, of course, you're going to have to recreate the service so that the new input and output elements are there, and that's one little tiny step. These are just very quick steps that you do. But if you're only changing the logic, this is the other beauty. If you're changing the logic behind the scenes in the natural program, if you're just changing logic, you never have to re-expose the service. You never have to recreate the service. You just change the flow. You just change the logic in the program and put it in your production, and no one will ever know the difference. And the same thing happened with Chris. Now, what you're seeing here is Chris. Chris was using the same applications as ASOP was, and it had to be converted to .NET. And I said, well, let's use web services for Chris. And the reason I wanted to show this to people who are out there maybe using AWS and Natural or whatever products you're using on the IBM Z platform, I know security is an issue. And we don't want people having access. We don't want to allow the people having access to our proprietary data who aren't vetted. So we have ACF2 security in Natural, and only those people with the proper credentials are allowed to be in our mainframe, our criminal mainframe system. And then we also have the Active Directory that allow people to get into the application initially to see, the calendar data. You can see that kind of stuff. But if you're going to go in and you're going to do any updating, or you want to go in and you want to drill down and you want to see any of these defendants, and if there's a warrant on anyone, you better have your ACF2 credentials. And we have written a service and consume a service that will verify that you have ACF2 authorization to get into the system. Guido, if you could go to the next screen. Now, I don't have any shots of the new ASOP system, but this is an overall view of the Chris system, where our calendar headers are downloaded every morning, and only one small SQL database is being held on that server. And the reason for that is, if you look to the far right of the pictures of the monitors, I know it's hard to see, they update the rooms of where these hearings are going to be on a daily basis. So even though the calendar headers, people are assigned to those calendars, where they're going to be will be done early in the morning, and then this gets produced out to the scrolling calendar. And then as people come into the courthouse, they'll see these monitors, they'll know what their hearing is, and they will know exactly what room to go to, therefore eliminating the need to talk to every single individual and tell them what courtroom they have to be in and what time their hearing is. It's all right here on scrolling calendars as they come into any one of our 3 courtrooms. And for the clerks that use Chris, each one of these calendar headers that you see here on the left-hand side of the screen with the arraignments and BOPs and all that, they can click on that and literally see every defendant who is scheduled for that day. They'll be able to drill down and find out if there are any warrants or if there are any warnings. The judges can go in and see any case history that they need to see, and these are all direct calls to the IBM Z platform. These are not held on that server. They're brought in immediately. All drop downs are direct calls to the tables on the IBM Z platform, and these things happen in an instant. They go quickly. Now I gotta wrap this up. So what's the next steps? Next thing. So the next thing, new product, Connex. We're looking at that. We've just installed it. The backdoor update set triggers. We can be in Oracle and set a trigger to update something in database. And we can expose data for the courts to hire their own SQL programmers, and they can program in SQL to manipulate database data and free up us developers in the in the shop, and they can do their statistics there. That's our next steps. But my most important thing here is get the young people involved. They're going to love it. As a young person, I loved it. As an old person, I love it more. These young people are going to love it. And one of my little taglines is, they always say you can't teach a new dog an old dog new tricks. Well, if you throw us a bone, we can learn a new trick, right? And these products were the bone we needed. And oh my gosh, we are just having a blast with this stuff. Now, when you get a new dog, the first thing you're going to do is teach them old tricks: sit, stay, lay down, whatever. So when you bring in your young people, get them used to your data, get them used to your processing, and then give them these products and let their young minds go wild. They're going to love it. And if you're in the rip and replace area, rethink it. I'm just saying you can do so much with these products with small amount of staff. I mean, we're doing this with 5 people, and we're having a great time. I'm sorry, I overtook my time, as you knew I would. Anyway, back to you, Guido.
Thanks, Betsy. So that's a good transition point, and let me quickly summarize. I think you have seen modernization as a journey, the different types of connectivity. We believe this will move on. You will see more and more flavors of connectivity as we are moving into the future. But we truly believe, and I think Betsy really nicely explained to you, the IBM Z platform. This is a powerful data processing platform. It's secure, it's reliable, it's fast. Yeah. But it only becomes a good VIP citizen in your overall IT portfolio if you are able to connect and integrate everything that you have on there seamlessly with the cloud, with new applications, and so on. By ending, so we have not just this session today, we have a lot of good assets for you. You can request a demo. We can show you what Becky explained to you. We can show you how to turn a COBOL application within hours into an API server. It's a good way on reading the ebook, or as Betsy pointed out, take a look on our data integration capabilities. We can show you within a matter of a day how to move IBM Z data from DB2, VSAM, INS database into Snowflake out of the box. And whatever your integration scenario is, whatever your challenge is, we like to get challenged. By saying that, I would like now to turn back to our moderators and to our host.